Hi, everyone. My name is Blau. I'm the Engagement Chair Committee of Syracuse University Law Alumni Association. We would like to welcome you to our second series of bar prep panels, where we have our alumni here to answer any questions you have. Today's panel is titled Addressing Bar Prep Jitters, and our next panel will be on July 11th, which is Tips and Tricks for Exam Day. I'm Lauren. I'm a 2017 graduate. I'm a New York City matrimonial attorney, and I'm here to answer all your questions. Thanks.
Jumping on that, welcome. I'm Brendan Hall. I'm a New York City litigation attorney. Technically, I started in Lauren's class, although I graduated a semester early, so I took the February bar. Definitely excited about this topic. It's a very beatable exam. We hope to offer you some tips and insights today. Thank you.
My name is Erika Simonson. I'm a 2019 graduate of the College of Law, and I am a litigation associate at Schulte, Roth & Zabel in New York City. I am so excited to be here, and I look forward to answering any of your questions about the bar exam.
I'm Mary Sito, and I teach at the College of Law. And I happen to be in Brendan Hall's law firm right now. He's hosting me in New York City. And I'm also here to give any advice that would be helpful for everyone.
Further proof that this is a College of Law family, wouldn't you say? My name is Mark O'Brien. I'm a member of the class of 2014, the immediate past president of the SU Law Alumni Association, and I currently work in Richmond, Virginia as a staff attorney for the Supreme Court of Virginia. As mentioned, we're all very excited to have you here and to be with you to talk about something that's obviously very important in the process of starting your legal career. And hopefully we can share some insights of our own experiences that can be useful to you. Just a couple of reminders as we get underway with tonight's panel. This panel is being recorded. So if you, for whatever reason, aren't able to view the whole thing, or you want to come back and watch it again in the future, it will be available through for you through the College of Law on their website. If you are joining us, please be sure to use speaker view. This Zoom meeting is not in a webinar mode per se, although we have set as highlights all of the panelists for today. So they are front and center. But if you choose the speaker view, hopefully that'll put all of the attention on the panelists so you can see and hear all of the hopefully helpful insights that we have as far as addressing whatever jitters you have starting this the bar prep process. And finally, anyone who is in the audience, if you have a question, feel free to type it in the chat or raise your hand, and we'll be sure to address that before the conclusion of today's panel. So I thought I would start by asking all of our panelists, and feel free to chime in as you see fit. You know, the bar process is a very daunting experience, especially when you think about this test determines whether you'll be licensed or not to practice law and you know, start that career. Heading into that daunting test, how did you avoid any, I'll call it excess anxiety, because I don't know if it's possible to avoid all anxiety, but how did you avoid excess anxiety about the bar exam and the studying for it in the months up to it?
So I could jump in. So obviously everyone wants to be a one and done bar taker, and you want to have the pressure of getting it done, doing what you're supposed to do. The best tactic that I viewed it as is, this is my summer job, right? I'm to wake up in the morning, I'm going to get the coursework done that's assigned to me, do the extra homework after, and basically commit to the fact that I don't ever want to do this again. And this is probably the only time this summer where I know I don't have other commitments, right? I'm not trying to do a job. I'm not trying to, you know, plan extra activities. I'm not doing an internship, et cetera. It's the time to focus. So the way that I address the anxiety is, I got to take it as seriously as possible, because one other time do you have the parameters in place for you to be successful.
Erika or Brendan?
Lauren, I completely agree with that sentiment. Studying for exams or doing things during the school year, you have so many other things coming at you from all directions, all of your extracurriculars and your social obligations, all of those things. But the summer that you're studying for the bar exam, all of those extra things can fall away. You were laser focused on one thing. And that was actually kind of a nice feeling. I had one goal instead of so many goals that I had, during the semester, for example. So completely agree with you in that sentiment. Something else I did was kind of really rely on my network, especially people who are not attorneys, because when you get into the pressure cooker of everyone thinking about the bar exam and getting really anxious about the bar exam, it can just really fester. And so I loved talking to my friends who were not lawyers and just kind of getting my mind off of it after a long day of studying. But it's so daunting. It feels so overwhelming, and that's such a normal feeling to have. But taking a step back, realizing that I had all of these wonderful tools in front of me and this wonderful support system made the test feel a lot less scary. And listening to advice like this and seeing people who made it through to the other side also made it a lot less scary.
I agree with that. And I had similar people that walked the path before me. So I took in as much as I could at that time. I would add also that it's very important that you take care of your physical and mental health. It doesn't have to be every day, but at a minimum, I think you should, between study sessions, go for a walk, exercise when you can, 3, 4, 5 times a week if you can. It doesn't have to be terribly complicated, high intensity cardio, but just getting the body out, getting the body moving. You're going to be sitting in a chair or standing, but studying for a large amount of hours over the course of the bar exam. So the importance of taking care of that body and the mind, the body and mind are linked, is so vital to reducing the anxiety. It's an outlet of sorts. So whatever that outlet is for you, whether it's walking, tennis, or otherwise, that doesn't have to go by the wayside. In fact, that could be used as an asset to help reduce anxiety. So I suggest you don't set that aside completely. Obviously, it's not going to be a time where you're training for a marathon, but with that said, you're training for a marathon in another sort, but don't neglect the physical and mental well-being for sure.
Yeah, Brendan, on that note, I will tell you that I think many of us remember Kim Wolf-Price, and I remember taking a course with her, and she had made a similar suggestion, but her note was, if you're going to start something different, whether it be exercise or even nutrition or sleep hours or whatever, start it early in your bar prep process as opposed to, a week before the exam, because you want to develop this sort of routine. But keeping in the theme that you were just describing, Brendan, about the physical outlets, I took what she said and applied it to what you were describing, and that's where I started running, and I haven't stopped running since. But it was an excellent outlet to work out the anxiety, work out the stress, feel like you were doing something healthy for your body, where the rest of the day you felt like you were weighing down your mind with all of this knowledge about the law. And it turned out to be an excellent stress relief. So I couldn't endorse that anymore as well. I want to ask the next question, because this is one that I actually hear from a lot of graduates, whether they be from the College of Law or otherwise, who have just finished 3 years of a pretty intensive experience that is law school, including a lot of doctrinal classes as well as other classes that may be applicable to the bar exam. And the question usually sounds like this, and it is, do I really need to study for the bar exam when I've just taken all of these law courses? I think we all know the answer to this, but I want to hear, I don't want to put words into your mouth. What advice do you have for students who feel like they've already studied everything they need to know about the bar exam that's coming up in a couple of months because they just finished law school?
Well, I would add to that, and I think that they do know the question, but to give specific examples, the answer is yes. The bar exam is a dialect of law. You may already know the basic language, the basic concepts, but these are questions that are going to be tested in new ways that you have not yet seen. And you'll be able to use, depending on whatever course you select, metrics to test your aptitude and ability. Ultimately, the goal is to get every question right. But when you first start taking practice exams, it's relatively common for a bar taker to, for the multiple choice, get 50, 60% correct, just right off the bat, diagnostic. By the end, towards bar prep, the goal is 80, 90% of those questions. So you need to learn those questions. You need to see those repetitions. The same is true for the essays. There's a very familiar pattern, but until you actually study for that pattern and take it all in, you won't be ready. So it underscores the importance. You can learn the pattern, you can see the questions, and so that by test day, you'll have already seen the questions in one form or another, but you can't get there without putting in the work.
I think what you have to understand is that when you have your finals for the semester, you're dealing with 2 or 3 main bar prep classes, right? So you're going to have an exam question that's your business association. You're going to have your commercial transactions. But the bar is a different beast, whereas you have to cram in, I think it's 12 subjects into one. You don't know if it's going to be a crim law question. You don't know if your essay is going to be on the family law topic. So you're learning the skill set of how to embrace what you need to learn for all these various subjects that the bar prep company is teaching you, but then how to apply it. And Brendan's completely right where you start seeing patterns. And the best piece of advice I got for bar prep with these patterns is when you're doing multiple choice, I had a notebook, and it was every time I did a multiple choice question, I wrote down what the rule was that I was supposed to get out of the question. So I was supposed to learn that, burglary happens at night and robbery whatever the rule is. I always quote it wrong. You start making a journal, like a spiral notebook journal of all these, and you will start seeing the pattern, and you will start learning, okay, I'm going to 100% get asked a question, the distinction between burglary and robbery. And then you start channeling yourself. That's not what you do when you're in your normal finals of like, I know I'm going to get asked a tort question, so therefore I know it must be a tort answer because I'm in my torts class. First, when you take the bar, could it be torts? Could it be con law? Could it be contracts? You don't know. So that's what bar prep is teaching you, is how to approach the bar. That is not like any other exam you have taken in the last 3 years. It's not like the LSAT. It's nothing like anything. And part of it is also a skills-based question, right? You have the MPT, which is basically sometimes you get asked to write a memo as if you're a clerk in a law firm. If you don't have those experiences, you have to learn the skill. So that's what bar prep is. It's the skill of passing the bar. And that's why you can't compare it to, oh, I did so well in family law the first co. I must know it. You can't rely on that, what I would call arrogance a little bit.
I appreciate the confidence of feeling like maybe you know everything. I did not feel that way, but can certainly agree with the sentiments of Lauren and Brendan that every question is going to be different. Your brain is constantly switching gears when you're in the middle of the bar exam, and that's just nothing like you've experienced in another law school test. I also think that the bar prep companies, regardless of what company it is, they know how to teach for the bar exam. You're not learning in the way that Professor so-and-so or Professor so-and-so teaches. You are learning in this universal way that has been tested and tried and true to be specific to, how this weird bar exam operates. So there were concepts in contracts that I'm bringing contracts because that was probably my worst subject, but now offer acceptance consideration. Maybe I knew those things. But the way they teach it in your bar prep courses, they really get to the point. They get to exactly what they know is tested on the bar exam. And it's just, for me, it was like a light bulb. It just clicked because they explained it in this way that was so clear and so concise. And I felt that for every subject. So preparing for the bar exam, it's teaching you to, take in all of this information in the exact way that it's going to be on the exam. So studying for the bar exam It's going to be a little different from how you studied for your courses in law school. It's going to test you different than your law school test. But that's what bar prep is for, to prepare you for this unique experience and give it to you in exactly the way you need it for the test.
I want to add one point on that too, and I agree wholeheartedly. I learned this one the hard way, but as it relates to the bar prep companies, they all have the same source for how they devise their courses, and it's the National Conference of Bar Examiners. That's the organization that distributes the uniform bar exam. So I think most that review this and from Syracuse will take the UBE. If you're in California or Florida, perhaps not, but most will take the UBE. So the NCBE produces outlines detailing exactly the subjects that are going to be tested. So you can go to their website and you can find that. It wasn't until I stumbled upon it that I was able to use their outlines, but all the bar prep companies have the same primary source, and it's quote unquote the horse's mouth. So check that out as another way to test yourself and run through. You're going to get various outlines and various materials, but you can compare it to the test taker, or I'm sorry, the test maker and their outline, and and so you'll know exactly what topics are going to be tested if you use their outline.
Yeah, I'll say I second everything that Lauren, Erika, and Brendan said, so I won't belabor the point other than to say, Lauren, you mentioned that there's a range of 12 subjects on the bar exam. In Virginia, it exceeds, I think, 21 possible subjects on the essay portion. So I would take 12 over 21 any day.
I could be wrong by the I think it was 12. All I know is that there's a method to the madness of these bar prep companies. So you gotta trust and you gotta just do what they say because they're the masters, right? Like you can't. I practice family law. It's what I've always wanted to do. Did I sit through the family law classes? Yes, because I don't know how to answer it the way they're looking for on the bar. And from what I understand, the graders of the essays are practitioners, right? So they have like their rubric and but you don't know how to write for them. You don't know who they are. So it's kind of like Erika was saying, like you're not writing for Professor so-and-so who likes, Iraq and you need to answer it that way. You learn how to do it in the time allotted, right? You have 6 essays in 3 hours. It's the training. It's like a marathon, right? Like you're not going to just like stand on the front line and be like, I have gym shoes, I could do this. No, it's like you have the right equipment and you got to train. And that's how you have to kind of approach bar prep.
So that's a good segue into the next question that I wanted to ask everyone here. And after I ask it, I'll just share a little anecdote about that analogy you just made, Lauren. But now that we've established that this is different than any law school exam that we've ever taken, and even if we've taken certain doctrinal classes or other bar sort of prep classes, or classes on subjects that would be tested on the bar exam, and we were confident about how we performed in those classes, or we really like the subject matter. The question is, what do I really need to study in order to pass? And Lauren, you mentioned, we don't show up to a marathon without having trained. I actually did that once, and I can tell you from experience that is a horrible idea. And so suffice it to say, I think it applies in this context too. It would be a horrible idea to not go through the entirety of your bar prep training, as it were, to borrow the analogy still, and just show up on exam day and think that everything will be just fine. There's a reason why, as has been alluded to, all of the preparation is structured or tailored in a certain way over the course of 10 to 12 weeks, something like that. And it's the idea that everything needs to be done in order for you to be properly prepared. So, I guess I'm answering my own question, but I'll give you guys the opportunity. My recommendation is to do 100% of what they say to do from start to finish. That way you can ensure you have all the tools available to you.
So I think another analogy, and obviously the graduates who are on this are immersed already in a little bit of bar prep, is that we all know that when you go up to your class, you have your case book of many cases, but you're not being assigned every single case, right? The professor is going to pick a few cases of the few topics and they're going to hammer it in, and you kind of know what's going on. For bar prep, there are no cases. You're not reading case law. You're just getting thrown information after information. You learn the rule, you learn the exception, and you learn how to apply it. So what bar prep does, and why you really have to do 100% of the modules, is the foundation, right? If you skip a day, if you skip some, you're going to have a gap in what you're supposed to learn. So you gotta say to yourself, okay, this is what I have to accomplish today. How do I get on the schedule? How do I do it? How do I get to the end point? And you just have to do it, for lack of better words. If you're not doing it, you're setting yourself up for failure. And yes, sometimes people get sick and you miss a day or two, but you have to be so disciplined in your own self and be like, how do I get on track? How do I stay on track? And how do I complete it? Because you're learning, you're just rules, and applying.
Definitely. It's designed to be completed too, though. These are institutions. They're not making this so that it's going to be impossible. It's designed for you to complete 100%. So obviously to get there will take work and time and hours. But in my personal experience, although you do study a lot, there was still time to exercise or make phone calls. It is quote unquote, very important. I don't want to say the be all end all, but it wasn't like I was fixated to the computer the whole time. There's still time outside of that. There's time to go to the grocery store. There's time to exercise, call a friend, take a walk. It's there. It's there. So, complete 100%, but it's designed for you to do that.
Completely echo that 100% should be the goal and what you do. And for me, seeing 99% completion would have killed me. I had to get to 100. But this was also really critical for me because the last day of bar prep, I was, of course, tired. I'm getting close to this exam. I'm ready to be done. I had one more essay to write to get to that 100%. And I could not be more glad that I did that essay because it was a wills and trust question that ended up being on the bar exam. And had I not gone through that essay and then realized what I had done wrong or what I was missing, I would have done it incorrectly on the bar exam and I would have missed all of those points. So I don't know if that'll happen to you, but you never know. So getting to 100% for me was absolutely critical. And just, you go through the entire summer, you have all of this time to focus on the exam. Why not do 100%? Each bit of this of your bar prep course that you complete gets you closer and closer to passing. And for me, that was an opportunity I simply could not pass up. I needed to get to 100%, and I'm so glad I did.
And Erika, just to continue on that point, I think doing everything as structured, as Brendan said, it's all there for a purpose. It's all there meant to be completed. Nothing is really superfluous. You want to give yourself every opportunity, to succeed, right? If you have more opportunity just left on the table, who's to say that it couldn't be that essay, that ended up being on the exam? I think we've given a lot of analogies or metaphors, but I'll throw in another one. If you're baking a cake, you wouldn't use only 60% of the ingredients to try to bake that cake because it's probably not going to turn out the way that you want it to. So, all of the ingredients are there for a reason, even if you don't see it in the moment, over the course of the entire bar prep. And certainly when it comes time to test days, you'll see the fruits of all your hard work pay off. Oh yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
I have never heard anyone say they regret doing more than what is before them. But I also just want to focus on you can't get caught up in what other people are doing, right? So if you know that you need to complete 100% and you study however you study to get it done, I don't want anyone to feel swayed to be like, oh, why do I feel like I have to, do more questions? They're done for the day, or you have no idea what people are doing. This is not keep up with the Joneses for bar prep unless someone's also sitting there doing 100%, because you don't want to get phased. You want to know what your obligations are to yourself, because the only one sitting there with the pass fail is you. You don't want to say, oh, I wish I did something. But there is balance, right? We're not saying don't lock yourself in a room and get a padded cell. You could build things into everyday transitions. So sometimes you start at the law school, sometimes you take lunch, you come back, you group study, you independent study, whatever it is. Just don't get phased by what everyone else is doing, because you know your best self and you know how to study.
So again, we've established that it's not like law school. We've established that it's important to do all the work. And many of the people who are watching this are into their bar prep courses, their modules. What are some things that you would say are, I don't know, common mistakes that they should avoid in preparing for the bar exam, or things you wish you had known at the time that you found out later that if you were to do this process all over again, you might do a little bit differently?
Briefly, and it touches on the prior question, I think a common pitfall to avoid is not doing enough multiple choice practice questions. Courtney Habit Hill at the time had a statistic that helped me. If you track her down, she can tell it to you. But there's a certain number of questions, and basically it entails completing your bar prep course. But there's a certain number of multiple choice questions that if you do them, it's highly correlated. It's not a guarantee, but a high correlation of passage. It's somewhere, I don't want to quote the number because at this point I don't remember, but basically complete those multiple choice questions that your course offers you. So I would advise that, and I would stress that, because 50% of the exam, if you're taking the uniform bar exam, is black and white, right or wrong, multiple choice. Not to discount the other 50%, but it's a little bit softer, a little more beatable. Whereas black and white, right or wrong, of the multiple choice is heavily weighted. And that multiple choice focus doubles as prep for the essays. So I think a pitfall is to not do enough of those repetitions, so to speak. And I'd suggest heavy focus on that.
I wish someone told me that about halfway through, your scores may dip in terms of your graded essays and getting questions wrong. Because at that point, halfway through, I learned later, is when you learn the exception to the rule. It's not just applying, the straight, this is the best interest of the child scenario. It's what happens further. So if you dip, it should be the motivator to be like, okay, I know something. What do I don't know? How do I reapply what I know and then keep going? It shouldn't be, I am going to absolutely fail this exam. It's a marker that you have to embrace kind of and just keep going. But you may dip in scores, and that doesn't mean you're not on track if you're completing the course.
In the same vein, I absolutely had days, weeks where my scores were not where I wanted them. I started to get very discouraged. I was comparing myself to how my friends were doing. And I really wish I had just tuned all of that out, stayed the course, not let myself get down. Because as Lauren said, I learned later that was inevitable. And also, I don't care what other people are doing. I want to pass the bar. So just thinking about that, and like anything, you're going to have off days. You're going to forget things, and that's okay. It's better to get those errors out during bar prep than to have it happen on the actual exam day. So one, not get down on myself. I am smart, I am capable, I am competent. And two, worry about yourself and your own progress, and don't use anyone else as a benchmark to your own success.
Absolutely. And I think it was alluded to before, something that I had to continually remind myself, thanks to the advice of alumni like us tonight, is to just trust the process, right? Erika, you mentioned, and Lauren and Brendan, you all mentioned that it's easy to get caught up in the minutia right? Maybe one day you're taking some of those multiple choice questions and you do really well. And then the next day you perform horribly. And it's easy to let that sway kind of your outlook and how you proceed and what you need to do or what you shouldn't do. I think it goes back to what we've been saying, and that is there's a structure to this. These modules have questions and materials that are meant to be reviewed and completed throughout the whole course of the bar prep. And you just have to trust that, as Erika mentioned, you're making the mistakes that you need to make now so you can learn from them. And you know, to the extent that this is something you also believe in, that you're getting them out of the way so that way you know, you can not make those mistakes on exam days. The next question I wanted to ask was, so, you know, we're talking about all of these concepts about everything's going to be fine, you know, trust the process, do all the work, focus on yourself and your studying as opposed to getting caught up in what everything everyone else is doing. If you do all that though, and you get to the end of July, maybe Monday night, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, or depending on, you know, where you're taking the bar exam, maybe Thursday morning, is it normal to feel unprepared? Having done all the work, having put in all the time, having done all the questions, used your opportunities for stress relief, exercise, proper nutrition, all that kind of stuff. Is it okay to still feel unprepared when you arrive for the bar exam?
It's not only okay, I think it's the rule of thumb. I think thousands of people take this exam from all over, very able people, and I think I can't speak for everyone, but I think almost everyone feels that way. So on the one hand, you're gonna feel nervous, you're gonna feel unprepared. Oh, what more could I have done? At the same time, you have to remember all the things that you did. You did the program, you did 100%, you did those multiple choice questions I told you to do. You did the essays, you attended this sort of function. So on the one hand, you will feel that nervousness, that unpreparedness, but on the other hand, you have to just reassure yourself, like Erika just said, that you are able and you followed the course, etc. But I think almost everyone feels that way. It's totally normal.
I remember the night before I took the bar. I took it with my twin brother. We were in the Saratoga. And we did like a full lap right after dinner, and we just like went through our, you know, our acronyms of things, and then we said, "This is it. We don't know anymore. We have it all in our knowledge. We just need a good night's sleep." And it was that break that you had to give yourself because you're so nervous. Do not bring notes to the minute you walk up to the front door of the bar. If you're just gonna psych yourself out and not, you got to trust that if you did the bar class, you know it. So the way to feel maybe better about being uneasy is have the confidence now that you're going to prepare yourself going in. You're going to get a good night's sleep the couple of days leading into it. It gave me peace, literally putting my notebook under my pillow as osmosis, trying to feel like maybe whatever I don't know will sleep in. But you have to have a mental break going into it, because if you burn yourself out the day or two before, you're not going to be performing your best. So do what you have to do now, have it in your head, and have confidence going in.
Completely agree. I also kind of had to have a pencils down moment because, I mean, what was I going to do? Study the entire night into the bar exam? Of course not. I set a pencils down time, no longer going to look at my notes. I was going to trust what I had done and feel confident. Of course, I woke up the next morning in this irrational panic, but I was in line to check in for the bar exam, and a woman behind me did have her notes, and she was reading out loud, really loud, all of these rules, and I'm getting freaked out. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know that rule. And I started to get in my head. I got to my seat and I sat down, and I was like, wait a minute, I do know that rule. Of course, yes, I know that rule. She had psyched me out. She was probably psyching herself out. But when I, sat down and I really thought about it, I was like, wait, I do know that. because I just studied it for the last however many weeks. So you are absolutely going to have that feeling of unpreparedness, of panic, of terror maybe that morning. I know I did. But as soon as I sat down and I got to my chair and I really, thought about every hour of studying that I had put to get to this moment, it was all up there. And I just had to trust that it was.
And along that, when you leave the bar after the first day, you're going to be having a mass exit with people. And it might be people you went to law school with. It might be your, next bar. Do not talk about the bar exam. Just don't do it. Don't. Like, I remember when I took the bar, I was staying in a hotel with a bunch of other bar takers. And my dad also happened to be in the hotel because he drove my twin brother to the bar. So he just hung around for a night. And he comes down in the elevator and he goes, "Lauren, you must be so happy." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "I heard there was a family law question on the exam." I was like, "Dad, there wasn't." So like, I don't know what you heard. I don't know if it wasn't on my exam. I did not, because I practiced family law. So you thought it was like instant points. I was like, "Dad, I am so confident that there was not a family law bar question," because I got the essays and I flipped through all 6 to be like, is there one? I'll go score all the points and then go back. And had I not had a joking moment of like 100% no, it was not on, I would have been thinking one night going into the second, I already failed. What can I do the next day to fix it? And you just can't psych yourself out because nobody knows how they did until 10 o'clock on a random October when they email it at night and go, yay or nay. You don't know. So do not listen to other bar takers. Just don't do it.
That's excellent advice. So thank you for sharing that story. Before we move on to the next question, I just want to bring in Professor Szto. I feel like we've been having a lot of conversation and not been including you. So I feel a little bit bad, but I thought I'd take a moment to see if there's any pearls of wisdom that you'd like to share, either from your own experience or having helped various graduates over the years prepare for the bar exam.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to share. So I think what everyone has been saying, the bar exam is unique. It is not like law school exams. And unfortunately, what you're learning to do over the next few weeks is how to take the bar exam. So you're not learning to exhibit what you learned in law school. You're learning how to take the bar exam and to trust the course. And as we know, the law school is providing Helix free to all graduates. So trust the course. And the key is pacing yourself. So because you're learning a lot of volume, you have to memorize. So you want to be fit mentally and physically. And the key is that you don't want to burn out. I remember when I was studying for the bar, I had a classmate who unfortunately, she decided on her own that she was going to have a certain schedule regime, and she burnt out. And so you don't want to come up with your own schedule, follow the course, because again, these are experts who have designed this process so that you do not burn out. But then also keep in mind that towards the end, you do have to do memorization. So I remember, in the beginning of the course, I was, going through the law, but then the last week or two, that's when I started to actually memorize. If I started to do that earlier, I would have burnt out. So keep in mind, you do not want to burn out. And then the most important thing is you want to give yourself rewards. So you want to say, okay, so if I do this much, if I've reached this goal, then I'm going to treat myself to, and then fill in the blank. So I don't know, it could be a movie, it could be just a nice dinner, but give yourself rewards so that you can motivate yourself. You do have to tell your family and friends, that you are studying for the bar. And so you will have to miss some barbecues, but hopefully you can arrange your schedule so you can go to your cousin's wedding, but you may have to miss some barbecues. So, but again, just let everybody know that you're studying for the bar, explain it's not like law school, and then say that you'll show up to the cousin's wedding, but you're gonna miss, 3 barbecues. But again, reward yourself because you are going to pass, and you're going to pass with flying colors.
Great. Thank you, Professor Szto. We spent a lot of time talking about all of the prep work and all of the importance of completing all of the modules and doing the questions and practicing the essays. There's no denying that it's a lot of work, and it leads to a very big test, a 2-day test, or in some cases, 2.5-day test, depending on the jurisdiction where you're taking the exam. To keep this question short and sweet, how much did you actually enjoy bar prep, whether that was in the moment or reflecting on it now? How would you answer that question? There's a lot of silence, but anyway.
I didn't like this answer when I was a law student. In hindsight, it was easier than being a practicing attorney. In a certain respect, you have freedom. You're focused on that. You're focused on, getting your body and mind in tip-top shape to just do that exam. So, I long for that now, although I'm a happy practicing attorney and I like the law practice. But in that respect, it was just easier, and there was less, professional related issues. It was just that. So that aspect of about it, I do miss, notwithstanding how much work it entailed.
I miss that it was the only thing I had to do. I had to just do the bar prep, do the studying, and I mixed up my day, right? So I went to the class with other students in a room watching the lectures together, and then I went home and I did self-study like independently. But I just miss the support system. I miss hanging out with my law school friends who now, well, Brendan knows, we plan things 6 months ahead of time, hoping that people are free. It was like the calm before the legal profession that I wish I say it every day, that I wish I could go back to law school. Do I wish I could go back to taking the bar? I will never take a bar exam again in my life. I'm a done bar taker. But I just miss the luxury of just not to say no to things, right? Like, no, I can't do that. No, I'm not free. No, this is my priority. It's something that I miss.
I agree. I definitely had the privilege of being able to have a one-track mind and really put all my effort into the bar exam. Whereas now, as Brendan and Lauren alluded to, we're pulled in all these different directions. But kind of what Lauren said as well, I do really miss kind of that camaraderie, or maybe you'd call it trauma bonding, of being with all of your law school friends and getting through it together. All my friends were texting me, checking in on me. They still do that, but probably not as much as they did when I was studying for the bar exam. But so, that support system, I love it. Really brought a lot of people together. But it was also kind of nice studying for the bar exam to feel like, this is the last hurdle before I am what I've been dreaming to be for at least the last 3 years. And now I'm in this profession and doing exactly what I had hoped to do. And just that summer, of course, it was stressful and I was anxious, but it was that just last hurdle to becoming an attorney, which had been my dream. And so that was such a good feeling to be working toward getting over that last hurdle.
Lauren, notwithstanding, Erika and Brendan, you're always welcome to take another bar exam if you'd really like to. You don't have to wave into every jurisdiction. If you ever want to rekindle those moments of, longing for the trauma bonding or whatever the case may be.
I just think that if I were to take another bar, there's not the luxury of it being the only thing. Like
That is true.
I would be like, oh, I still have to work. I still have to do this. I still have to do that. I will say I've heard from many, many people that bar prep body was like the best physical shape they've ever been in.
To
Because
Brendan's
all I
point.
had to do was work out and do the bar tech. I've heard people say that, you know, just the trips and to get ice cream and walk around the block is what they wanted and what they still want. So that's where you have to circle back to the first question of your mental and physical health coincide with your bar prep studying.
So being mindful that we're starting to run close to time, I have two more questions for everyone here. The first one actually leaves this topic and I think approaches the topic of our next panel, the third installment in our three-part SULA bar prep panel series. But since we're all here, I thought it was an opportunity to just maybe tease that topic a little bit with this question. And that is, I believe this year, New York is returning to an in-person bar exam, which is something that recent graduates within the last year to 3 years since 2020 have not encountered, but all of the panelists here remember taking an in-person bar exam. Anything that, in keeping in mind that we're still early in the bar prep process, anything that those studying for the bar exam might need to start keeping in the back of their mind or planting seeds with regard to taking an in-person bar exam as opposed to, you know, some of their more recent classmates, perhaps, who took the virtual bar exam?
Got two things. One, if you have not already and you're taking it in a place where you do not live, make an accommodation now because it's likely that a lot of the hotels, Airbnbs, or otherwise are booked. Secondly, your technology. Although I know that you took law school exams and you should have a working laptop and charger, make extra sure that it's in perfect working condition. If you know your charger is looking a little frayed, it's time to replace it. A friend of mine took the New York bar exam and his computer either died, crashed, or otherwise. So if that situation happens, you can handwrite the exam. He handwrote the exam. He passed the exam. So it's not the be all end all. But don't let that happen to you. Ensure your technology is in proper working order.
You just have to know your surroundings if you're going to a bar prep city that you're not familiar with. Know what restaurants exist. Know if you have dietary restrictions that you could still get a good meal in the town you are. Have a backup plan for everything that could potentially go wrong. I had a friend whose car wouldn't start one morning of the bar. He happened to know other people who were going to the bar with him, so he got a ride. Things happen, but you have to best prepare yourself for the best exam day and all the ways that it could go wrong.
I agree. I took the bar exam in New York City in the Javits Center, and I pinpointed that place on a map. I knew how I was going to walk there, if I needed to take the subway there, if I needed to get a bicycle to get there. Just thought of, all the ways to get where I needed to go. Hopping on those accommodations early. There was an option to buy the lunch through the bar exam people, so they provided you with lunch on exam day. I went ahead and took them up on that offer, so I didn't even have to think about it. Especially taking it in New York, where there were quite a few people in one room, I made sure I had earplugs and extra earplugs, so I could tune out everybody else. But yeah, I think the earplugs were the big thing. But there's also a list online of how you're allowed to take things into the bar exam. I think it's like a gallon-sized bag, but don't quote me on that. So just knowing ahead of time what I was allowed to bring in. As I got closer to exam day, I started to keep only those things on my desk, just so I could get used to how I was really going to be and what I was really going to have with me when I was in the exam room.
Great. All right, final question for everyone, and it's really open-ended. What haven't we discussed that you think at this stage of the bar prep process is important for our recent graduates to know? Or what have we discussed that you think is worth repeating a second time just to reemphasize as they're honing in on late July?
So I want to go back to the first panel we had with boundaries with the families and everything. We all had a support system. All of us kind of mentioned the support system we have. If you feel that you don't have a support system for you, please reach out to us, reach out to other alumni. We've been through it. We know what it is. And yes, we will be the ones to send you $5 Starbucks gift cards or a hello text or just checking in. Rely on your alumni network if you truly feel that you are in this alone or you don't want to be stuck into, well, my friends are doing this, but I don't think it's the right thing. Reach out to people who want to help.
I would say to take advantage of the workshops that the College of Law is providing for free. And the College of Law is also providing accommodations for free during 2 intensive workshops. So please take advantage of those.
Erika or Brendan?
I think that we've covered everything that I would want to contribute at this point. I cannot make the July 11th meeting. I will be out of the country, which is a perk of getting through the bar exam. So you have that to look forward to. But I want to just, I guess, reiterate how it's a very beatable test. It's a standardized test. These questions are recycled and regurgitated, which is why it's beatable. It's not abstract. So to the extent you can get your hands on, I know the prep companies offer practice exams. Various states offer them as well. So to the extent that you can get as many timed examinations in as possible, don't go crazy, but you should show up to the bar exam having already taken at least 2, if not more, full-length bar exams. So that way you're going to know the timing, you're going to have your timing down right. You'll have already seen the questions. It'll feel natural. To use a sports analogy, if you're going to play a basketball game, the time of the game is not the time to start shooting at the hoop. You need to shoot beforehand. So do those questions. They're accessible and it's beatable. And if you do that and trust the process, you will pass.
I had the privilege of not having anything else going on. The summer I was studying for the bar exam, but I know there were students in my class who had children or were raising families or had to work during that summer. And to that, I would say, reach out to the SULA network, reach out to the Syracuse network, because there are other people who are in your exact shoes who had to find a way to, handle those things that they're doing in their lives and study for the bar exam. Get to know those people, see how they did it, see how they split their time, because people have those other circumstances going on and they're still able to pass the bar exam. And the second thing I would say is just to reiterate what Brendan said to kick us off. Your mental health is really paramount. If you start to deteriorate mentally, you're just not going to do well in this test. So take the time you need. Not everyone's activities are going to look the same, what brings them joy and peace, but find what brings you joy and what brings you peace. For me, I love sports, so I definitely made time to watch games. I went to some Syracuse Mets baseball games. There was time built in the schedule for things like that, and taking off those few hours to do those things I loved really just reinvigorated me and got me, even closer to being ready for the bar exam.
Awesome. Thanks, Erika. Yeah, and I just want to reiterate the point that Brendan made at the very beginning. Do something for yourself. And I'm particularly thinking about something physical, just to get the body moving, because there is so much sitting or standing, however you decide to study, but there's so much just being in one spot, trying to focus on all of these weighty legal concepts and a lot of brain work that having some sort of physical outlet, I think, is helpful. When I started the bar prep program, I did not consider myself a very physically active person by any means. And for me, that was to just start running about 3 or 4 days a week. Nothing significant, just 3 or 3.5 miles here or there. It might be taking a walk. It might be, going outside just to get fresh air, going to your favorite park, or taking a walk with your dog, whatever the case may be. I think something to let the rest of your body kind of work out some of the anxiety or some of the nerves, the tension, et cetera, is super helpful. And the sooner you can start, not only the better will that be for the duration of the bar prep, but also it'll help you develop, a routine, right? So that as you start to go through your day, it helps lend itself to, as Lauren was saying at the beginning too, treating this like a job, treating your day like, when you wake up in the morning, you know what you need to do, how your day is going to progress. And as my contracts professor used to say, there are no surprises. The best that we can minimize any surprises, that usually tends to help tamp down the anxiety as well. I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for joining us for this panel on addressing bar prep jitters. Hopefully, there were some nuggets of information that will be useful to you over the next several weeks leading up to the bar exam in July. As Lauren mentioned, please do not hesitate to reach out to any one of us. The College of Law has all of our contact information. And I don't think I'm putting words into anyone's mouth when I say that we're all happy to be whatever resource we can be over the next several weeks, with the exception of Brendan when he's out of town, out of the country, I think he said, on his much deserved vacation. But in all seriousness, we're happy to be whatever resource we can be. And Lauren, this might be a good time to plug our next and final installment in the series.
So our next series is going to be on July 11th. It's going to be a similar setup to this, where we're going to address tips and tricks for bar day, what you really need to know in the last 2 weeks of crunch time before you walk into the bar, and what bar day exam looks like. And it'll be again with alumni panelists who've been there and are here to support you.
Awesome. Well, we hope you can join us for that. In the meantime, happy studying, I guess, as it were. But in all seriousness, good luck with everything, and let us know if and how we can be a resource for you in the days, weeks, and months ahead. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck. Thank you.